Okay. So just to introduce myself really quickly, I'm Audrey, and I'm helping out with the Cheer Summer interview series this year. And I'm a rising senior. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be here today and interview Albert. Albert, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name's Albert. The high school that I went to Academy of the Canyons. I'm gonna be majoring in computer engineering at Georgia Tech. Um, and then for hobbies, I like to code in my free time. I like to listen to an assortment of music, and then I also like to exercise. As for the fun facts, I think they were on the flyer already, but I had my family raised three pet chickens before, and I'm able to bend my elbows around like 30 degrees because I'm double jointed. And then I made some money off of selling game items before. So that's just a little bit about me.
Great. Thank you for sharing. First, let's start off. You said you mentioned computer engineering as your major. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like what that includes and maybe how you chose that as your major?
Yeah, so computer engineering. Um, It's kind of like a blend of computer science and electrical engineering. And I was especially interested in computer science when I was applying to colleges. So I wanted to have that kind of aspect inside of my college experience. But also I wanted to have some like technical hardware type of skills as well, which is why I chose to try to major in computer engineering. Uh, and then I guess another aspect that I was considering was with like the recent everything rising with AI, things like that. I thought that, getting a good grasp on how like the GPUs and hardware and that how th those kinds of systems work could help in a sort of career in that direction. So that was kind of my reasoning for choosing computer engineering.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so now that you've mentioned like wanting to do like computer science, computer engineering, like what classes,
妈妈，笑笑过来，小米你过去啦。
okay, we're just okay. Um, so what classes that did you take like in high school that were kind of related to like what you wanted to do, or you feel like helped you in the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think definitely what helped me was taking in the entire math series from Calculus 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, differential equations, and then linear algebra. That definitely helped me get a grasp on the fundamentals of like the engineering and computer science space. And then during those years, I was also taking physics 1 and physics 2 as well, both calculus based. So that helped me kind of get an intro to like engineering and physics as well. And then I did take a few CS courses there, here and there, but mainly I stuck to taking the computer science principles and computer science AP tests, which helped me to kind of review those fundamentals and then I guess dive deeper into CS and like the languages as well. So I guess my recommendations would be definitely take all the math that you can, and then uh, if you're
你就
interested
拿着
in
听。
if you're interested in engineering that kind of thing, then uh, you should also take physics C if your school offers it. So yeah.
Did you know that you wanted to take these like classes or like computer science related ones since your freshman year, or did it sort of come later on?
I think during my freshman year, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I didn't have a super solid plan, but I knew I wanted to take, max out on math basically, at least to get that fundamentals for those STEM like majors basically. And then as for physics, I I think I was sort of interested in it in freshman year, so I had it on my plan already,
Mm.
but that kind of interest became solidified and turned into, okay, I should actually take these courses during my sophomore year, which I planned those courses for my junior year, basically. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. And this is also sort of a part of what you did in high school, but what are things that you did outside of your classes, like extracurriculars or organizations that you did, that could or could not be like related to your major?
Yeah, so I guess starting with stuff that's more related to my major. mm, I think something big that I did was like various internships. You know, even just I think I did one in a car company once that was international, and that helped me kind of understand how like the EVs work and like the various things that they have to go through to kind of manufacture them. So I got experience with like EV batteries, testing the sound pressure, stuff like that. So I think that was one activity that helped me. And then as well, kind of n near the CS aspect, I did another internship with like a electronic component company where I helped with like the cybersecurity aspect in the in kind of maintaining the website's traffic flow. So I think yeah, internships and those like work experience that's even like slightly re related to your major. Like for me, uh I guess it was kind of a combination of like a CS related internship and then like a more electrical engineering based internship. Those kind of like coincided and that fit my major really well, I guess, because it's part of those two. But something else I think that helped that's kind of non kind of not based on my major, but I did do a lot of work here at Cheer actually. So
Mhm.
I think I think that was definitely a big part of my application as well. Having all that community service experience, the leadership experience, and kind of leading projects that you're passionate about or help show who you are and your background was really helpful for me, at least in my application process. So those were two of the biggest things. It was the internships and then as well as the experience here in cheer. So yeah.
That's great. And you mentioned like doing cheer and having that in your application. How did you incorporate it into your application? So like was it an extracurricular or did you write about it in your essays? Did you do both?
这也是个 organization。
Yeah, so I definitely had it listed as one of my activities. Mainly I think my main aspect of cheer that I focused on was like the trail cleanups and that kind of thing, the recycling and all that. And I kind of tried to tie that into my essays on okay, so the a lot of colleges will ask this essay about um how has like a certain community impacted you or how have you, contributed to a certain community. And for a lot of those essays I would use my experience leading those like trail cleanups and like and the recycling and stuff. And I think that helped tie into some other projects that I did based on, using computer science or computer engineering to either do something like environmentally well or conserve energy or that kind of thing. So those kinds of essays were always, for me, trying to tie my experience in cheer with the trail cleanups and all the environmental aspect into my other projects that tie into my major and tie into my passion for environmentalism. That's kind of how I structured my essays and how I incorporated cheer into my application. So yeah.
Mhm. I like that. I like how you really like used cheer and like related it back to your major. Okay. And then this is more about like your acceptances into the other colleges that like you maybe applied to. I know that you specifically like were committed to Johns Hopkins, right? And then now you're going to Georgia Tech, so maybe you want to talk about that process and like how you made those decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, my original commitment for college was at Johns Hopkins University, and I was going to major in computer science and applied math there. I ended up getting off the wait list for Georgia Tech, and then considering that as an option, and I eventually decommitted from Johns Hopkins to go to Georgia Tech instead. Um, I think I think either of those two schools for CS or computer engineering or any of that, they're both really great schools and you really can't go wrong with either. I think the main reason I decided to decommit from Johns Hopkins was because I found that something I really valued in a college experience was the culture there. And specifically, I needed like a school that had a really strong tech culture, and that yeah, basically just tech culture. So Georgia Tech, I mean, you can hear it in the name, right? It's a tech school, and I thought that you know. Georgia Tech with its tech culture, I thought it fit me more well than Johns Hopkins, which had more of like a pre-med or a bio-focused culture. So that was the main aspect that kind of shifted me towards Georgia Tech. And then there's other reasons as well, like the costs, the transferable credits, and all of that. So yeah, that was my reasoning. And then other other colleges. I think as for other colleges, I did get into I think Washington University in St. Louis and then
Hmm.
some of the UCs like UCI as well. So I think yeah, Georgia Tech to me was the best option out of all of them based on what I valued in a college experience. So yeah, that was my reasoning for choosing it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I like how you really thought through everything. Maybe for people who are like maybe entering their junior year, starting to think more about like which colleges they're going to apply to in the first place, like maybe you want to talk a little bit about like how did you even compile a list of ones that you were interested in before you even applied?
Yeah, for sure. So um let me think. How did I okay. The main thing that you want to think about is the programs in your school, right? Like the what do you want to study first of all? You should have that down, and then you should look at, how well the programs for that specific major are for various colleges. So for example, if you were like a tech person like me, like you wanted to major in like CS or like math or anything engineering wise, then obviously like a few options that would pop up would be like something like UC Berkeley or like Georgia Tech or you could try to apply to like Caltech and stuff like that. So you should always have your colleges, in my opinion, like compiled based on how well those programs are, as well as certain things that, might matter to you as well. Like, does location matter to you? Does even like the school's environment, the way the school looks, do you feel like you belong at that school? Or maybe like the culture at that school. And then as well, some people might have to look at like like whether it's a state school or out of state or private and base your decisions off of that as well. I think for me, one thing that I kind of that I didn't realize mattered to me until I started looking at the schools was uh was the kind of architecture at the school. I'm not sure why it mattered to me a lot, but I found that I didn't really like the red brick architecture at the schools, and it was a sort of factor, but yeah, just saying like things like that you might not think about beforehand, but I think you should think about it while compiling your college list. So yeah, basically just think about like the factors that matter to you, and then compile a list based off of that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And then now that you are committed to Georgia Tech, maybe you want to talk about how you feel like let you stand out in the process, like how you think you got in. Obviously, like you're not going to know the exact like formula, but maybe what you feel like you did in your own application that like allowed you to be successful in applying to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. So Um, Obviously you should have like the standard sort of like quote unquote requirements to apply to these schools, right? Like a high GPA, you know, SAT or standardized testing score if they're still using those, and then rigorous coursework, things like that. And then obviously you also want to have like your activities um tailored towards your major, and then all the things like leadership experience and stuff like that, they all matter. And then I think something that you can do that makes you stand out is in your essays, a lot of colleges will ask, why do you want to go to this school, or what's driving you to apply to our school, right? And you really want to emphasize your interest in that school by researching a lot about the school, what it has to offer, what classes it has to offer, what the professors there are doing, what kind of clubs are cool there that you really want to like participate in, or like if they have any like research programs, for example, or labs that you want to do. So research a lot about those, and then talk about like specific programs, specific professors that you want to work with, specific classes that you want to take, and really show that you've done your research into this school and that you want to go there if you do get in. So I think that's one of the most important things is the essays and being able to demonstrate your interest. So yeah, definitely focus
Yeah.
on that when you're applying.
Definitely. Okay, and also I have a question from the chat, but it's about standardized testing. So maybe you could talk about that and like what you feel like, I guess what is a good score that you feel like will be competitive like in applying to these top scores, like what your experience with that was. And also what was your weighted or unweighted GPA?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first. I had a 4.0 unweighted GPA, and then I think my weighted GPA was around like 4.71. In From what I've seen in these like applications, um I don't think your weighted GPA matters too much as long as your unweighted GPA is high enough. So like being in like 3.9 plus for unweighted GPA, I think that's a good range to start thinking about applying to top schools. And then the reason I say weighted might not matter too much, it's not that you should still take rigorous courses and like courses on a 5-point scale, but if you're just taking courses to max out a weighted GPA, it's not going to be too effective because all the high schools, they use different weighted GPA systems. So the colleges, they see sometimes they'll see a student with like a 5.6 weighted GPA, and sometimes because their school is on like a 6.0 scale or something like that. And then sometimes you're on a 4.0 scale for weighted. So it's different between these different high schools. So I think the thing that matters the most in terms of GPA is having a good unweighted GPA and then taking rigorous courses. And then for standardized testing, I'm assuming you're talking about like SAT and ACT. I think that I think that anything like 1500, anything over that, you just that's a good enough score. You should not try to retake it again to get anything above that because I think anything above 1500 is a minuscule difference from just having a 1500 flat. So once you reach or pass that threshold, it really does not matter anymore. It's more about the rest of your application. And then for ACT, my I'm pretty sure that translates to a 34 on the ACT. So yeah, I think in my opinion that's what you should be aiming for standardized testing if you do want to apply to top colleges.
Yeah, that's great. And did you apply test optional or you submitted your scores?
No, I submitted my scores. So my SAT was the last physical copy of the SAT. So I took it once and I got a 1530 on it. So I didn't take any of the digital ones after
Oh,
that.
okay.
So
Mm. And maybe this is a follow-up question, but maybe for some people who are like currently thinking about the SAT or ACT, like how do you feel like you prepared for that? And what led you to like get that score?
yeah, that's a great question. So I did use some online resources for it. Khan Academy is a very, very good option in my opinion. I use Khan Academy a lot. There's also certain programs that might be paid or unpaid. I know one is Prep Scholar, and then you can. I think we also borrowed a few SAT books from friends as well. So those kind of just for me, I just did a bunch of practice problems and then analyzed like what questions am I getting wrong. For me, it was the reading section that I kind of was struggling with and the like the grammar vocabulary section. So I made sure to focus on those. For grammar and vocabulary, it's really just about memorizing the rules and knowing them by heart. And then for reading, um, I think a strategy this might not work well for other people, but the strategy I used for reading comprehension was I tried to read the passage as quickly as possible while like still understanding what happened, and then go to the questions right away. And then if I'm stumped on a question, then I can go back to the sections where it's talking about that in the passage, and I'll still have time to, reread that part of the passage and then answer the question again. And then, yeah, just think about like test taking strategies as well. Like circling questions to come back to, having enough time to double check your answers, and just not spending too long on certain problems. So, yeah, th those
Yeah,
were my strategies.
definitely. Sorry, another follow-up question. So you said you took the last physical copy, so I'm assuming that was your middle junior year. Yeah. What time do you recommend like kids who are in high school that they start thinking about it or start taking it?
So, I started preparing for it during my summer after sophomore year. So, the summer leading up to junior year, I was preparing for the SAT and the standardized tests, and then I took the SAT in November of my junior year. So, I think the thing about taking the SAT or ACT later into the year, like later junior year or even early senior year, is that you're gonna be so caught up in all your because you have your AP tests during the spring semester, right? And then you have maybe extracurriculars that you're still working on. And then during senior year, you're doing college applications, and that takes a lot of time writing all those essays. So my best advice is to try to get it done as quickly as possible. Try to get it done during fall semester of your junior year. I think that's the best time to get it done. So then you can focus on, finishing up or like starting new extracurriculars, and then you'll have time in your senior year where you don't have to worry about standardized testing to focus on your applications and writing essays.
Yes, definitely. Also, this also goes in hand with the standardized testing questions. There's a question from the chat which is asking how many APs did you take?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question as well. So my school was actually, they did not offer APs at all. So my school was a dual enrollment school, which meant we took classes at the local community college right next to us. So for that, we were required to take a certain amount of dual enrollment classes, but we would basically have two um two dual enrollment classes every semester that we were in high school. And then we would also have, summer and winter classes as well, usually two or three summer winter classes, and that would be um sophomore the summer after sophomore all the way until senior winter. Basically we would have winter and summer classes, two or three per. And then but yeah, APs is definitely an important part of your application. So what I did was I took my AP tests outside of my high school. So I would um during freshman year I took AP Computer Science Principles, AP Chinese, and then during sophomore year I took AP Physics 1, AP Computer Science A, and then during junior year I took AP Lang, AP US History, AP Calculus BC, and then AP Physics C Mech, and then during senior year I just took one AP, which was AP Stats. So in total, I took 9 APs, and these were these were outside of my high school. So for I think for the person in like the public high schools that do offer APs, I would say mm, it's a bit difficult to like pinpoint a number, but I'd say like somewhere over 10 APs. I think it's already doing pretty good. So just take APs that are like related to your major. Like if you're like a technical person, then obviously you'll want to take AP Calculus BC or AP Calculus AB and AP Physics 1, AP Physics C, that kind of things. And then like if you're a bio major, for example, you would want to take AP Bio, maybe AP like environmental science and those kinds of like science kinds of APs. So yeah, I guess that's my view on
Yeah.
it.
That's great. And then also in school specifically, were there any like different clubs or like leadership opportunities that you did like within your school that you like put on your application?
Mm, I think I have a pretty different experience than most people. Almost all of my activities were outside of school, so I didn't have any activities that were like clubs or stuff from my high school. But I can a lot of my friends did, so I'll just talk about that. We have, a lot of high schools have ROTC that you can do if you're interested in that. It's kind of like high school military leadership uh type of type of an activity. And then there's also like the academic programs there where you can compete in academic competitions um, with other like kind of squadrons. So that's an option you can take. And then also yeah, like creating clubs based on your interests and your major especially, that could be a good thing uh that could help with your application. And then as for yeah, I didn't really have any like leadership or ASB, anything like that on my application either. My personal opinion is that leadership doesn't have to come from your high school. It can be from like other places as well, where my leadership experience I talked about in cheer. That was like my main leadership experience. So um I think you don't need to be in ASB. You don't need to be in student council. I don't think these are things that are like necessary when you're applying to top schools. I think you just need to focus your leadership on one area that doesn't have to be in high school, but it could be in high school, and just try to make the most out of that, basically. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think it's really valuable because oftentimes people think it like has to be student council or it has to be DECA or whatever, but
hmm
it as long as it's some form of leadership, like you said, I think that's great. Oh, scholarships. Did you apply for any or like did you like do anything with it with scholarships at all?
So I didn't apply to any scholarships that were school specific. The most scholarships that I applied to were just kind of like local scholarships like that certain organizations. There's a lot of like Chinese American organizations that do offer some kinds of scholarships like our like one of our kind of sister organizations CACA they offer they had a I think $1,000 scholarship that they were giving to five incoming college freshmen. So yeah, you can look for those opportunities like online and there's a lot of talk about them in WeChat. So maybe the parents might have some insight onto that. But for college specific scholarships, yeah, those are pretty difficult to get, but I'm pretty sure you have to write an essay usually about if you're applying to them, but yeah, I don't have too much information on those.
Yeah. No worries. Let's see. Okay. I would ask you about community service, but I feel like you've touched on that with cheer and everything. So Yeah. So this is a more general question, but like how was the overall application process for you? Like, was it stressful or were you really organized with it? Like, what kind of experience was that for you?
Yeah, so for me, the application process wasn't terrible. I think there was a bit of like a tiny bit of panic in the end to try to like finish up a few essays. But overall, I started writing my UCs and my personal statement during the summer before senior year. So I think, yeah, summer before senior year is like a really great time to like start writing your essays, especially for UCs. If you're gonna apply to UCs, then start writing your essays during the summer. And then what I guess what a lot of people do is you're not writing there's so many essays that you have to write to when you're applying to colleges that you're not going to have time to write like distinct, unique essays for all of these prompts. So you're going to start reusing your essays that you've already written a lot, right? If there's a lot of similar prompts between different schools. Like a lot of schools ask, why are you choosing us? Or like what kind of ways have you impacted your community? And for the community essay, you can write one community essay, like a general one, and start rewording that to fit the word count and kind of just reusing that essay in your other schools. And then for your I guess the hardest one to do would be the why us essay, right? Because you would have to research individual things about all the schools and research specific things about all the schools. So um yeah, I guess my advice is to try to get your UCs and your personal statement done during the summer before senior year, and then during senior year, you can focus on all your supplemental essays for the out-of-state schools and the private schools. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Um, oh, also, teacher recommendations, like I know every school does it a little bit differently. Like for mine, there's a form, but I don't know, like maybe you could talk about how you got them and like how you decided which teachers you wanted to write for you, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So, we also had a form that they just introduced this year, which would basically say like rank the people you want to give you a recommendation letter. And for us, I think it was a bit easier for me to get recommendation letters because my school only has around 100 students in it. But for me, I think I chose for my high school teacher, I chose my junior year history teacher. And then for I also chose one recommender from my local community college. That was my I think junior year calculus 3 teacher. So I think uh one thing that's pretty important is to have a teacher recommender that's kind of tailored towards your major. So it doesn't have to be very specific. Like if you're applying to CS, then you don't have to get a CS teacher to write your application, but you should get or write your recommendation letter, but you should get, like a math teacher, for example, or like a physics teacher to write a recommendation letter for you. And then another thing is you should always try to make relationships with your teachers. Like, you could stay after class and talk to them about certain things or ask them a lot of questions and just be known to your teacher, I guess. Don't let them write you something like a recommendation letter where they're just like, yeah, this student was great in class, but I don't know that much about this student, so I can't really write that much. So make sure you're asking like teachers that will say something besides the generic recommendation letter or that like teachers that you know on a like know well basically. So I think those are the two important things to have a recommender based on your major and also those recommenders should know you well and like know your personality traits and be able to talk about you in a good light.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's good that like you started thinking about it early on. This is kind of related to the application process. But looking back now, like you're going to college soon, like was there anything that you would have liked to do differently as you enter the process? And like any like if you had to do it again, for example.
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So, I think one thing that I could have done better is I could have had a more concrete college list before I started writing all of my essays. So I think during maybe maybe in like the beginning of senior fall semester, I think I should have had a more concrete college list and do more research on schools that would be more tailored towards my major. So, for example, like I feel like some schools I wasted a bit of time like applying to, or I applied to like programs within it that weren't too good. So, I guess for one, I think I spent a bit of time applying to Vanderbilt, and I thought looking back, that definitely wasn't the best use of my time. And then I think I could have chose like a better school, more tailored towards me to apply to. And then I think for when I applied to UIUC as well, I wasn't really looking specifically at, I didn't research too well on the program that I was applying to, which was the information science program. Uh, but that it ended up being like a pretty poor program, which I wouldn't be able to really transfer out of or anything. So those were yeah, that was my main thing that I think I could have done better in my application process. And then mm, yeah, just make sure to spend a lot of time on your essays. Like just um basically you should have the almost entirety of like senior fall semester to work on your essays and write all your supplementals and just be ready. You don't want to be writing like a essay like really last minute or changing something right before the deadline. It gets very stressful. So, yeah, that's my main advice.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the chat it says like what school did you graduate from or what high school?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So I live in the Stevens Ranch, Santa Clarita Valley area. So I graduated from a school called Academy of the Canyons. It's a small public school and it's a lottery-based system to get in. So you're basically you have a random chance to get in basically. So yeah.
Mm, yeah. And then I have another question from the chat, but I know that some colleges will do interviews, like they'll ask applicants some questions, like did you do any? And if you did, like what were some questions that you got and what was your experience with that?
Yeah, so again, I think I have a bit of different experience from most people. I did sign up for all the interviews, but I got zero interviews back. So no college asked me to interview at all. Um, but from what I've heard from other people, um, they want to get to know you during an interview. They want to get to know like your personality, like what you like to do. And it's not about I really don't think an interview is about like flaunting your achievements or things like that, or like trying to convince them to really let you into this school based on like the extracurriculars you've done. You want to be a genuine person during these interviews and show off some of your like, your unique personality traits or like like if you have a unique background, then you should be talking about that during an interview. Or if you have like certain life experiences, then you can talk about that during interviews. So, yeah, that's my thing with interviews.
Yeah.
But one also thing, uh, my opinion on interviews is that they they really are not from the trends I'm seeing, they are starting to not matter as much as they did before. And I think that you can place weight on interviews and preparing for interviews, but I don't think there's something that you should be prioritizing super heavily. I think that, and then whether or not you get an interview does not have any bearing on your like your chance of getting in. So yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard it was just a matter of like if they even had enough people to give interviews, like
Yeah,
if
exactly.
enough time, enough people to volunteer.
Mhm.
Um, okay, more questions from the chat. One was, did you play any instruments or do any type of like art or performing arts? And if you did you submit that as like a portfolio or like a supplementary things?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So I did not do any instruments at a high level, and I didn't list any sort of instruments or arts on my application. Um, I did swim in high school, but I also did not list that on my application because I think I quit during junior year. So um, those kinds of things like instruments, they're becoming very common on college applications as well. And I don't think it's gonna make if you're just talking about instruments as in like listing out, oh, I did piano like CM10 level, that's not really gonna make a difference in your application at all, in my opinion. Unless you have something that, unless you're talking about like your instruments in a way that like unless you're like you talking about them in your essays and um they have some kind of like value to your application. Like maybe you played maybe instruments, like playing instruments were a big part of your life, and those experiences with the instruments led to you like choosing your major or led to some other extracurricular that you did that is maybe more impressive than just playing an instrument. And then I guess for arts, I mean, the portfolios and stuff like that, like art portfolios, music portfolios, they're more for like if you're applying to certain programs that require you to have that in the, as a part of the application. Like for example, um I think one of the colleges that's near me is Cal Arts, and you should definitely be submitting like a portfolio if you're applying as a like an art or any sort of like design major, right? Or like even like an architecture major. You should always be submitting a portfolio. And like if you're a music major, for example, then then yeah, you would want to be like submitting a portfolio of your stuff. And if you are a non-STEM, like non-humanities, non-STEM major, if you're a design and music and that type of major, then the portfolio is a big part of your application then. Then it should be weighted very heavily and you should be spending a lot of time preparing that. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great, and I agree. Like it depends on what you're interested in and what your major is. And then there's also another question in the chat, which is, I think you already touched on this, but I think like some people joined later. When and how did you know like which major were you that you were gonna apply to?
Yeah, so I think I've always sort of had an interest in computer science when I was throughout high school. And then after like time taking physics and with all the AI stuff coming up, I will also wanted some like experience or some like grasp of knowledge on like the hardware side of like production, like GPUs and all that stuff that power AI. I wanted to know how they were made and how like the kind of like the physics behind them. And I was sort of just interested in that section overall. So I chose my major computer engineering based on those two things, computer science and then like electrical engineering when you combine them. They were two of my like big interests and I chose my major based off of that. So um, I guess when during senior year, I basically finalized my major. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Okay, another question in the chat. Compared to other parts of your application, how important were your community service and leadership experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So, um, I would say that my community service and leadership experiences were of an important aspect of my application, as in the a lot of colleges will ask about like the community aspect, like how did you impact your community? I would always use cheer and the things I did at cheer and like the projects I did at cheer as the answer to those essays. So that was a big part of my application. I think for all the other types of essays, I would use more like academic, like for example, like my experiences with research or like internship experiences or like projects that I've done as the answer to a lot of those other essays. So it's really, in my opinion, these kinds of like asking how important were your community service and leadership experiences, or how important was this specific part of your application? It all comes down to the essays. How are you able to use, like, are you able to use your community service and leadership experiences effectively to demonstrate something in your essays? Then, yeah, it's going to be a really effective part of your application. But if you just have, if you're just listing it as a part of your activities, it's not going to have as much weight as what you talk about in your essays. So if yeah, you want to use like the best parts of yourself or the most impressive things in your essay. And uh yeah, that's
Yeah,
basically my view on it.
definitely. Uh, okay. I don't know if you can see the chat, but
Yeah.
there's a good amount. Yeah, so I guess the first question is like maybe talk a little bit about Georgia Tech and like what is it's known for and like why you chose it.
Yeah, for sure. So Georgia Tech is, like the name suggests, like a school, like kind of technical school focused in Georgia. And talk a bit about it. I guess I'll talk a bit about the programs then. To give a bit of background, Georgia Tech's computer engineering and their computer science is typically like top 10 in national ranking. And then what is it known for? It's known for its computer science and computer engineering program mainly. Um, I think I'm not sure about alumni's and things like that, but Georgia Tech is a public school. It's a school kind of like UC Berkeley or UCLA. It's a public school. It's not really sure how to. But yeah, it's a large technical school. It's known for its CS and computer engineering program. All of its engineering programs, basically, like even environmental engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, they're all kind of Georgia Tech is kind of known for their engineering programs as well as their computer science. So, uh,
Yeah.
so
No,
yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. The second question in the chat says, if you do know, like, and your classmates, your peers, your friends, like, what kind of colleges were they getting accepted into, or where are they committed? Like, if you have any idea of that.
Yeah, so I can answer this as well. Mo A good percentage of my classmates at my high school ended up just continuing their education at the local community college, and then going on a transfer plan to like a UC basically, which is also, if that fits you, then that's also a really good option if you want to save money or if you're kind of in that situation. So it's a good option to consider. And then as well, I think we had five. All right, our school has 100 people, so we had five UC Berkeley acceptances. We had around like seven UCLA acceptances. And then we had around I think we had five UCI acceptances, around like 5 to 8 UCSD, and then like 10 plus, 20 plus Davis, and the rest of the UCs basically. There's a few other people that got into Georgia Tech as well, and then I think most of them either chose UCLA or UC Berkeley to go to instead, and then as for the other schools. Let me see. Oh, we had around like 5 to 7 USC as well. Um, and then I think as for as for the kind of like like top 10 or Ivy or elite acceptances, it was really only It's really only Johns Hopkins, and then I think one of my classmates was able to get into University of Chicago as well. So those we didn't have any like Ivy or anything like that acceptances. So
Mm,
that was that was the acceptances at my school. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, definitely like a lot of California UCs.
hmm
Okay, and the third question asks about Chinese, and like, did you study another one outside of Chinese, or did you kind of just stick to that throughout high school? And was that like some kind of requirement for Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so I did not study a second language besides Chinese. I took for my required language class, I took Chinese at the community college, and then I also took, AP Chinese as well. So, my college did not. I don't think any colleges require a third language. I think, um,
Hmm.
I think your general education does require a second language though. So that's not a part of any college requirement. That's just a part of like your is it IGETSI or like a some sort of like a like kind of like a high school requirement from what I've seen. I might be wrong about that. I don't think I'm the
Yeah,
best person to ask about that, but
I think there is some, it's like 2 or 3 years for like
yeah.
Chinese.
Okay.
I think it depends on the school. And I think a follow-up question for that could be like, Um, I'm assuming at least some, if not most, like students in this Zoom probably have some Chinese background. So maybe you could talk about like why you chose this just stick with Chinese and like that versus or like instead of learning a whole new language like French or Spanish or things like that.
Yeah, if you're just I mean I guess it's two different things. Like class selection wise, you can choose to learn like Spanish. It's not gonna be that much different. It's just a bit more work. It's really this doesn't make that much difference in your college application at all. If you're choosing to like learn an entire new language like outside of class though, which I don't think this question is asking about, but it's a it's a lot of time for something that might be very might not have as much of an impact on your application as you might think. A lot of the some of those like kind of some of the reasons why like like learning foreign languages or having experiences with foreign languages can be effective in college applications is again like I mentioned, if you have some kind of unique experience around, that language. Maybe for example you grew up learning like Persian, for example, or you grew up tutoring Persian, and then you realize and then maybe that led to you like doing mm, like tutoring other people for learning Persian and then making something big or doing something impactful or meaningful that ties into like Persian or that language, then yeah, then learning Persian or learning a foreign language can be something that could help your application when you talk about it in an essay. But if you're just learning a language just to try to stand out on college applications, I think there are much better ways to try to like level up your application. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I think we're just going off of the questions from the chat now because
Mhm.
I think you've kind of covered like most of what I was gonna ask. One question is like, can you talk about like if you have any like research experience or some kind of like research that you did throughout your time in high school?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So, let's see. The main research experience that I had was I did research with two other students and a professor from Cal Poly Pomona, I believe. And we did research on like analyzing features of importance in autism. So, um, yeah, I think we spent around like a year doing that, and then we were able to we were able to finish the essay or the research essay and get it published in a journal. And my two other people that I did it with, they presented it to like an online international conference in Singapore, I think. I think I wasn't there because I was at a swim meet. But yeah, it can research can definitely help your application a lot. I think it's becoming a lot a pretty popular thing. So um you should try to reach out to your local like the colleges kind of next to you and see if their professors are doing anything. Um, I know there's programs that are kind of competitive to get into for like certain colleges that will kind of like lead you in at least research experience. I'm sure there's some yeah, there's some in like the more elite institutions in like the top 20s, but you can apply to those programs. And yeah, it's mainly about like researching what are these professors at different colleges looking into, and if you share those interests, then you can reach out to them and possibly start some kind of research project or um get something going there. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is a little bit of a different question that is, but in terms of your essays and specifically like your personal statement and Common App essay, like for that essay, did you focus more on like your major and like your academic stuff that you wanted to focus on, or did you choose to do something that like wasn't really related to like computer engineering and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think for my personal statement, Um, I talked about like a life experience that mattered to me a lot, and I tried to tie that in the later half to sort of like computer science and like engineering sort of project that I did. But that project was not just like it wasn't just like, oh, this is something I did that, demonstrates my computer science passion, right? It was about that project had to do with, conserving energy and environmentalism and stuff like this. And that was something that I talked about earlier that really mattered to me because of a certain life experiences. So that's kind of how I tried to structure my personal statement, where I would start with like the experiences and and then try to demonstrate my passions and where what I want to use computer science and computer engineering and stuff for, which would be like environmentalism and energy conservation, things like that. And then I would talk about, you know, my projects that I did with computer science and electrical engineering and stuff like that that had to do with the thing that I was passionate about. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Um, More questions. Um, did you do any summer programs throughout your time at high school? And did you do like maybe Cosmo or like there's other ones not familiar with the STEM ones, but did you do any of that? And if you did, like what was your experience with that?
Yeah, so I did not do any summer programs. There how do I say this? I think summer programs are what you make out of it. Like for example, Cosmos, I think if you're just attending Cosmos and taking the classes, I don't think it's worth it to do Cosmos. I think to make Cosmos worth it, you should be trying to like network with the professors there and then meet people there as well that could, either start some other like either start research with them or either, start some extracurricular with them or maybe join something that's existing already. So Cosmos and all these other like summer kind of quote unquote programs where you're kind of just taking classes, it it's worth it if you make it worth it in terms of trying to like get connections and network with professors. So that's something that's important. And kind of just to touch on summer programs, there's different kinds of summer programs in my opinion. There's there's ones that like Cosmos where you pay money and you take classes. There's other summer programs that are free and are very like competitive to get in, and having those on your application, like for example, MIT's MITES, having that on your application can give you, in my opinion, like a pretty significant edge. And especially if you're actually doing stuff in that program. But just getting into that program demonstrates that you're able to, that you're good enough to be able to get into that program already. And then mm, yeah, those hyper like competitive, like typically research programs, they're if you get into them, then yeah, they will help you with your application. And I think it's a good idea to do them. And then there's other summer programs as well that kind of that give you like a direct edge in admissions. So one of my the classmate I did that got into the University of Chicago, what they did was they applied to and got into a summer program at the University of Chicago. And the if anyone knows anything about U Chicago, it's that they love all their early decision kids. They really only take from their early decision kids. And they will give the students that did the program at U Chicago a decision to, it's called ED zero or like early decision zero, basically. And you're given the option to apply basically in August to early decision to U Chicago. So you're in a completely different application pool, and around like 80 to 90% of the people that apply using ED0 end up getting into U Chicago. So there are certain summer programs that like U Chicago's that will give you very direct chance, like very direct boost at admissions. I also know there's a program, I think I think one of my friends might have done it, but there's a program at Johns Hopkins as well that if you get into, then you have a pretty significant edge in the admissions for Johns Hopkins. They don't give you a direct like ED0 option like U Chicago did, but they do give you an edge when you're applying. Or like certain colleges will ask you, did you have a summer program at our school? Then in my opinion, it's a signal that they do value that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we're a little bit over time, so I'm not gonna like there's a few more questions in the chat. Like maybe you could just take like a few seconds to answer them, like just short answer. But one of them is um like your work experience, if you have any. Did you like talk about it in any of your essays?
Yeah, I worked at Mathnasium, math tutoring place, and I talked about it for one of my UC essays. So,
Hmm. Okay. And then also, how demanding and time consuming was the college application process for you? Just how was that experience?
the application pro like starting from listing out my colleges and writing all the essays, it was it was a very stressful experience, but and it was very time consuming. But as long as you manage your time well, start early. Like make sure to start early. Start in the summer if you can, even earlier if possible. But if you start early, then you'll be fine, in my opinion.
Hmm, great. And then also, there's another question, but it's about like your early round applying to colleges. Like, did you ED anywhere, EA, REA? Like, how did you decide on that? You can keep a short answer, but like, how was that for you?
Yeah, I only did one early. I did early decision to Cornell, and I got deferred and then rejected in the end. So, make sure with your ED, you choose something that like you know for sure that you want to do, like your top option.
Hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much. People were very interested in what you had to say. Lots of questions. Um, I wish you the best on your college journey at Georgia Tech, and this recording will be posted. So if anyone has like missed something, like you can go back, or like any more questions, like maybe you could tell people how they can reach you, like if you have an email, or if they have more questions to ask you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for interviewing me, Audrey. And for everybody that does have questions, I put my email in the chat. Just feel free to email me, or you probably can find my WeChat as well in the cheer group chats. So feel free to communicate with me, and I'll try my best to respond.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Albert, for your time. And yeah, thank you guys for coming.